For those of you who've been watching my videos for a while, you'll know that last league Tier 17 maps hated me. Well, this league, Tier 17 maps got easier, but they are still way harder than Tier 16s. The other thing that happened this league is that melee got a huge buff, and bleed has been restored to one of its former glories. Those of you that follow my league starts, and maybe even played my character, will know that this character scales really well off quite low investment. In fact, for less than 2 divines this character can run Tier 16s without a problem. And that was at league start. Now it's probably closer to about 100 chaos. So anyway, back to the story, and then I'm going to show you how I scaled this character into the endgame beast that it now is, capable of doing Tier 17s deathless. And all while this is happening, in the background you'll be watching this character actually run Tier 17s in the wild. So last league I failed to run a single Tier 17 map. The boss wrecked me on every attempt. This league, however, with the stronger character and the weaker Tier 17s, I am absolutely dominating them. The Ziggurat Tier 17 is still the strongest in my opinion because the boss fight is a complete pain in the ass. All the others fairly straightforward. And I do literally mean all of the others. I have managed to run and complete all of the Tier 17 maps currently in the game. So first things first, the most expensive thing on this build is the axe. It was 55 divines, but you do not need it to run Tier 17s, they will just be a little bit slower. You can in fact run them on Jack the Axe, the starter axe which you can currently pick up for a couple of chaos. To be able to run Tier 17s we need 2 new items. The first is Riaslatha's Coil. This was very expensive at league start, over 12 divines. It's currently around 20c, so much cheaper to start now. You also want to pick up a Light of Meaning gem. This is a prismatic jewel that amongst the many rolls you can get on it can grant 6% increased physical damage to all passive skills in the radius. The radius is large and this goes directly below the duelist starting area between the endurance and frenzy charge nodes. This on my build grants around 120% increased physical damage. This is huge for between 4 and 6 divines, the price has been fluctuating a little bit. Now if you didn't follow my build, I will link the 3 videos that I've made sort of giving the update and the journey of this character in the description below. But those of you that did will know that I've been using a blood sap tincture for quite a long time. I cannot stress enough just how strong this tincture is. In Path of Building on my current build, when the tincture is off, I'm doing about 17.5 million DPS. That includes the 1 million or so culling strike DPS that we get. However, when I switch the tincture on, the damage jumps to 27.1 million. That is a huge hike of just under 10 million DPS. It is truly and utterly insane for a single item on this character. I think it's more powerful than the axe itself. It should be noted that these tinctures do not work in Path of Building at the moment. You do need to edit them to remove anything that says from melee weapons. I'm using a damage over time multiplier and the actual from bleed. The bleed can stay on and it will still work, but the overtime multiplier has to be removed. I am going to release a full guide to this character in the coming weeks. But for now, I just wanted to get this out here to give you the POV and show you exactly what this character is capable of in terms of Tier 17. It's important to note that it's not just Tier 17s that this character can run. It has defeated all endgame bosses with the exception of the Ubers, which I'm currently working towards. I just don't have enough fragments yet. I've got loads of them, but not 5 of any particular one. Before we finish, I just want to answer the question, is it worth it to run Tier 17s or a Tier 16s? Fine. If you want to run Ubers in endgame, then you should run Tier 17s. It's the only way to get the fragments to actually run them. In terms of gold for this league, Tier 17s drop a ton more gold than Tier 16s. It is actually hugely noticeable. In terms of drops, I can't say I've noticed a huge difference. You drop a little more chaos on average than in a Tier 16 from my experience, but I don't think they're massively worth it unless you're going to farm them to get the fragments. That said, they are harder endgame content, and so there is the bragging rights that make them worth it, at least to run them once. They are however worth farming because they're worth 50 chaos a piece, which is quite a lot. To farm these effectively you are going to want all 4 void stones. There is a huge difference in drop chance from your first void stone and your 4th. It works as follows. The first void stone gives you a 0.4% chance to drop a map. The second a 1.6% chance, third 3.6 and fourth 6.4% chance to convert a drop tier 16 to a tier 17. Well, that is it. My character can absolutely decimate tier 17s without a problem, and I'm actually really enjoying the increased difficulty. And the massive amounts of gold which are allowing me to keep my town running that little bit longer without having to play a ton each evening. Until the full guide is out, you'll find the path of building in the description. If you have any questions on the build, do not hesitate to ask in the comments, and I will try and reply as quickly as possible. If you find the content I create to be useful or even entertaining, please do not hesitate to click the like button. It helps me out a lot. And if you really like it and want to know when I'm posting again, subscribe. May the RNG be with you, and until next time, goodbye.